The whip cuts through the air, and the dust of the Nile clings to the skin like a second slavery. Exhausted men carry bricks under a merciless sun. Women watch over their children with the mute fear of those who have already wept too much. Egypt shines with gold and statues, but beneath it beats a cry that rises night after night to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How much can a chained heart endure? How long does it take for a promise to break the iron of the impossible? A shepherd of the desert stops before a rugged mountain. The sand bites his feet, but the fire does not consume the bush that burns before him. It burns, and yet is not consumed. His name is Moses. A past heavy as bronze, rescued from the river, raised in a palace, a fugitive for a crime. Before the burning bush, the voice that created the heavens speaks his calling. I have seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cry. Fear tries to speak, but the promise of God silences it. It will not be his strength. It will be the power of the I Am. The court of Pharaoh glitters with pride. The magicians make gestures, the pillars listen. A staff falls to the ground and comes alive. The water, red like a wound, flows through the Nile and into the jars of the palaces. Frogs, swarms of insects, livestock struck down, skin inflamed with boils. The very sky seems to shatter in hail and fire. The land devoured by locusts, a darkness heavy as stone. Egypt, that thought itself master of the world, learns that the world does not belong to it. And yet one last night remains. A night marked by a sign on the doorposts, a hurried meal, bread without leaven, a promise of salvation in the midst of judgment. While the clocks of men fall silent, the time of God advances. The sea waits mute and gigantic. Behind, the fury of chariots and warriors. Ahead, the impossible blue. A staff is raised, and the wind opens a path where no one imagined it could exist. Israel enters between walls of water. Each step is faith, each breath is hope. Could this be only the beginning? For afterward will come the desert and its school of obedience, the bread that falls from heaven, the water from the rock, the cloud that guides by day, and the fire that watches by night. There before all, the love of God will prove that his promises never fail, that the Bible is not an ancient echo, but a living voice calling for trust today. Now this is the story of a people who prayed, and God came down. This is the story of an unlikely deliverer who learned that strength is not measured by the arm, but by obedience. This is the story of faith rising against empires and winning. If your heart beats faster, stay, because what comes next is not just a film. It is a call to believe that the God who opened the sea can also open a way in your life. This content is free, but the impact it can have is immense. If this message touched your heart, repay it with a simple gesture. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notifications, and share it with someone who needs this word. Leave a comment about what impacted you most in this video. In this way, you help us bring this biblical knowledge to more people. The sun rises over Egypt, gilding its temples and palaces with light. But for the children of Israel, each dawn is heavy with chains. Whips cut the air, and voices of overseers thunder, "Faster! More work!" The Hebrews bend beneath loads of clay, shaping bricks for monuments that do not belong to them. Fear lives in their silence. Sorrow weighs on their shoulders. Yet the more they are crushed, the more they multiply. Pharaoh's fear deepens, and fear hardens into cruelty. A decree is issued, cold, merciless. Every Hebrew boy that is born must be cast into the Nile. The river, once a source of life, becomes a river of death. Cries of mothers are drowned by the sound of rushing waters. A nation groans, and heaven hears. In the midst of this terror, a child is born. To his parents of the tribe of Levi, he is not ordinary. He is precious. For 3 months they hide him, hearts racing at every sound. But the moment comes when he can no longer be concealed. With trembling hands, his mother weaves a basket of papyrus, coats it with tar and pitch, and places her son inside. She sets the basket on the waters of the Nile, and what was decreed as a river of death becomes the very channel of salvation. The basket drifts, carried by currents unseen, and the child's sister watches from the reeds, her eyes fixed on her brother's fate. Footsteps draw near. The daughter of Pharaoh comes to bathe. She notices the basket, sends her maid to fetch it, and opens the lid. A baby cries. The sound pierces her heart. Compassion wells up within her. She knows this is a Hebrew child. Yet she chooses mercy over decree. She names him Moses, drawn out of the water. By divine providence, the boy is given back to his own mother, now as a nurse employed by Pharaoh's daughter. She cradles him, nourishes him, and whispers to him the name of the true God. When the child grows older, he is brought into the palace. He learns the wisdom of Egypt, raised as a prince in halls of splendor. But beneath the garments of royalty, his heart remembers the stories of his people, and the God of Abraham stirs within him. One day, now grown, Moses goes out and sees his people's burdens. He watches an Egyptian strike a Hebrew, and anger flares. Looking this way and that, he kills the Egyptian and hides the body in the sand. But secrets do not stay buried. The next day, as he tries to intervene in a quarrel between two Hebrews, one turns and says, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Fear grips Moses. Pharaoh hears of the murder and seeks to kill him. The palace that once sheltered him now becomes a place of danger. Moses flees into the wilderness. From prince to fugitive, from palaces of gold to barren sands, he wanders until he reaches the land of Midian. There, by a well, he defends the daughters of a priest named Jethro. They bring him home, and in time Moses marries Zipporah, one of Jethro's daughters. He settles into life as a shepherd, tending flocks under the vast silence of desert skies. The man who once lived in Pharaoh's courts now learns the humility of barren paths and simple duties. Yet the story does not end in the desert. Far away in Egypt, the cries of Israel rise higher. Scripture says, "The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning and remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Heaven bends low to listen. The covenant is alive. The God who promised is preparing his answer. A child drawn from the water, a fugitive hidden in Midian, a people enslaved under the whip. All these threads are being woven into a story of deliverance. The cries of men will soon be met by the voice of God. The desert stretches in silence, endless dunes shimmering beneath a ruthless sun. Moses, now a shepherd of flocks that are not his own, leads them through rugged paths. The once prince of Egypt has been reduced to solitude and sand. Yet it is here, far from palaces and thrones, that destiny prepares to break into his life. He comes to the mountain of God, Horeb. Suddenly, his eyes catch something extraordinary. A bush is on fire, blazing with flames, but it is not consumed. The fire crackles, yet the branches remain whole. Moses turns aside, curiosity stirring. "I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." Then from within the fire a voice calls, "Moses, Moses!" He answers trembling, "Here I am." But the voice speaks again. Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Awe floods his soul. He hides his face, afraid to look at God. The voice declares, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them. Each word is a weight of glory. The cries of centuries have reached heaven, and heaven is answering through him. Then the impossible command, so now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Moses recoils, a fugitive shepherd sent against the most powerful empire. His voice falters. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? God replies with the only assurance he will ever need. I will be with you. The sign will come later. When the people are free, they will worship at this very mountain. The one who trembles now will one day return with a nation at his back. Still, Moses hesitates. Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God answers with a revelation never before spoken. I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. The eternal self-existent one, the God of covenant, gives his name. No idols can compare, no power can rival. He is the God who is, yet Moses clings to his fear. What if they do not believe me or listen to me? The Lord gives him signs. His staff turns into a serpent, then back into a staff. His hand turns leprous, then is healed. Proof that the power rests not in him, but in the one who sends him. Still, Moses protests. Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent. I am slow of speech and tongue. The answer thunders with patience and authority. Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. But Moses pleads once more. Please send someone else. Anger burns, yet grace remains. God appoints Aaron, his brother, to be his spokesman. Moses will take the staff. Aaron will be his voice, and together they will stand before Pharaoh. The excuses end. The mission begins. Moses leaves Midian with his wife and sons, the staff of God in his hand. The desert has forged him, the fire has called him, and the covenant now drives him forward. The shepherd of sheep will become the shepherd of a nation. The God of I Am will walk before him. The time of deliverance has come. The gates of the royal palace swing wide, revealing the heart of Egypt's power. Marble floors gleam, golden columns rise like pillars of pride, and the throne of Pharaoh dominates the hall. Guards stand with weapons ready, and priests of Egypt whisper their incantations. Into this sea of splendor and arrogance walk two men clothed not in silk but in obedience. Moses carrying the staff of God, and Aaron his brother. Aaron speaks with courage beyond his own strength. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. The words echo against the stone walls. For a moment, silence hangs heavy. Then Pharaoh's reply falls like a hammer. Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. His voice drips with defiance. The empire believes itself invincible. To Pharaoh, Israel is nothing but labor, bricks and chains. Yet what he does not know is that he has just provoked the living God. Pharaoh not only refuses, he multiplies the burden. He orders his overseers, "You shall no longer give the people straw for making bricks. Let them gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Do not reduce it. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out." The chains grow heavier, the whips harsher, the cries of the people louder. The Israelites confront Moses and Aaron, despair in their eyes. "May the Lord judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us." Moses, shaken, turns to God. "Why, Lord, why have you brought trouble on this people? Why did you ever send me?" But the Lord answers with thunderous resolve. "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand he will let them go. Because of my mighty hand he will drive them out." Strengthened by this promise, Moses and Aaron return to the palace. This time, a staff falls to the floor and becomes a living serpent. Pharaoh's magicians cast down their staffs, and they too become serpents. But Aaron's staff swallows them whole. A sign, small but clear: no power of Egypt can stand against the God of Israel. Still, Pharaoh's heart hardens. Then comes the first blow. At the word of the Lord, Moses strikes the waters of the Nile with his staff. The river turns to blood, fish die, the water stinks, and every jar and pool of Egypt reeks with death. The Nile, once the pride of Egypt, becomes its shame. Yet even as the land suffers, Pharaoh's pride remains unbroken. He returns to his palace, refusing to listen. The stage is set. Egypt's gods will be unmasked one by one. The battle is not merely between Moses and Pharaoh, but between the King of Heaven and the arrogance of men. Each act of defiance will only magnify God's glory. Israel, still in chains, begins to glimpse that their God has not forgotten them. The cry of their fathers will meet the hand of deliverance. The confrontation has only begun. What you are watching has the power to transform lives, and you can be part of this. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this message. Every simple action helps spread this truth to those who need it most. Leave a comment about what touched you the most in this message. The Nile, once the pride of Egypt, now reeks of death. Yet Pharaoh's heart remains unmoved. So the Lord sends a second plague. Frogs swarm across the land. They leap into houses, ovens, beds, and palaces. The land of Egypt shudders with their presence. Pharaoh summons Moses and pleads, "Pray to the Lord to take the frogs away, and I will let your people go." Moses prays, and the frogs die, piled high in heaps. Relief comes, but with it Pharaoh's heart hardens once again. Then the dust of the earth becomes gnats, covering people and animals alike. The magicians of Egypt attempt to replicate the sign, but they cannot. They whisper to Pharaoh in fear, "This is the finger of God." Yet even this admission does not soften the king's pride. His heart resists, blinded by arrogance. Next come swarms of flies. They pour into the houses of the Egyptians, filling every corner. But in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites live, not a single fly enters. For the first time, Pharaoh witnesses that God not only judges, but also protects his chosen. Pharaoh offers a compromise, that Israel may sacrifice within the land, but Moses refuses. "We must go a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, as he commands us." Pharaoh agrees, then retracts once the flies are gone. His word proves empty again. The 5th plague strikes the livestock. Horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks collapse across Egypt. Wealth and strength fall lifeless in the fields. Yet once more, Israel's livestock remains untouched. The distinction is clear. The Lord's hand is both judgment and shield. Still, Pharaoh's heart will not bend. The 6th plague brings boils. Painful sores break out on man and beast. The magicians themselves cannot stand before Moses, their bodies covered in affliction, but Pharaoh refuses to yield. Then the sky itself joins the battle. A storm of hail and fire descends, shattering trees, crushing crops, killing servants and animals left in the open. Egypt trembles beneath the weight of the heavens. Some officials, fearing the Lord, bring their servants indoors. Even among the Egyptians, faith begins to stir. Pharaoh calls for Moses, "I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked." Pray to the Lord, for we have had enough thunder and hail, Moses prays, and the storm ceases. But once more Pharaoh's heart hardens. The plagues do not relent. Locusts swarm over the land, darkening the skies and devouring every green thing left after the hail. Pharaoh pleads again, confessing his guilt, but the moment the locusts are swept away by a strong west wind, he breaks his word. Pride enslaves him as much as he enslaved Israel. Finally, a thick darkness falls. For 3 days, no Egyptian can see another or leave his place. It is a darkness that can be felt, heavy, suffocating, absolute. Yet all the Israelites have light in their dwellings. The gods of the sun and sky, worshipped by Egypt, lie humiliated. The Lord demonstrates his dominion over every element, over dust, water, air, fire, and light itself. Still, Pharaoh clings to defiance. His heart is like stone, refusing to bow. He summons Moses in fury. "Get out of my sight. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die." Moses replies with solemn certainty, "Just as you say, I will never appear before you again." The stage is set for the final act, the night when judgment and mercy will meet at the threshold of every home. The plagues were not merely punishments, they were revelations. Each one shattered the false gods of Egypt, proving that only the Lord is God. Each one widened the chasm between pride and humility, between rebellion and obedience, between death and life, and each one brought Israel closer to freedom. Egypt groans under the weight of 9 plagues, but Pharaoh's heart remains stone. Then the Lord declares to Moses, "I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. After that, he will let you go. In fact, he will drive you out completely." The moment of final judgment has come. Moses stands before Pharaoh and announces, "This is what the Lord says. About midnight I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, to the firstborn of the female slave at her handmill, and the firstborn of the cattle as well. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again. But among the Israelites, not a dog will bark at any person or animal. Then you will know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. The decree is terrifying. Death will pass through every Egyptian household, but the Lord provides a way of escape for his people. He commands Moses and Aaron to prepare the first Passover. Each family must take a lamb without blemish, a year old, and slaughter it at twilight. The blood must be applied to the doorframes of the house. That same night, they must roast the lamb and eat it with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. They are to eat it quickly, with belts fastened, sandals on their feet, and staffs in hand, as people ready to depart. The Lord declares, "On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn. But when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt." The blood is the dividing line between death and life, judgment and mercy. As the night falls, Israel obeys. Doors are marked with crimson. Tables are set in haste, and children watch silently as parents speak of God's promise. Outside, the city seems still until midnight comes. Then a cry pierces the silence. From Pharaoh's palace to the lowest house, death sweeps across Egypt. The firstborn of every household falls. No family is spared. The wailing rises like a storm through the land, grief unmatched in its scale and pain. But in the houses of Israel, peace holds. The destroyer passes by every home marked with blood. Where there is faith, there is life. Where there is obedience, there is salvation. The people eat their meal under the covering of the covenant, tasting freedom before it fully arrives. Pharaoh's pride collapses beneath the weight of loss. In the night, he summons Moses and Aaron. "Up! Leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go! Worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds and go." Egypt, broken and fearful, urges them to depart quickly. They give Israel silver, gold, and clothing, treasures pressed into their hands in desperation. The Hebrews leave in haste, their dough unleavened, carried in bowls wrapped in cloaks upon their shoulders. What began as a nation of slaves now departs as a nation redeemed. They march out not in secret, but in triumph, under the mighty hand of God. That night becomes the beginning of months, the memorial of generations. The Lord commands, "This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance." Passover is not merely a meal, but a covenant carved in blood and memory, pointing beyond itself to the Lamb who one day would take away the sins of the world. Israel walks into freedom, carrying the promise. Egypt lies broken, its gods humiliated, its pride shattered. The Lord has shown that he is faithful to his word, mighty to save, and just in his judgments. The night of terror for Egypt is the night of redemption for Israel. The people of Israel march out of Egypt at last, their steps quick and uncertain, carrying unleavened bread and the treasures given by frightened Egyptians. Children cling to their mothers, elders lean on staffs, herds move alongside them. But above them moves something greater. By day, a pillar of cloud leads the way. By night, a pillar of fire lights their path. The God who judged Egypt now guides his people into freedom. Yet behind them, Pharaoh's heart turns once more. Grief gives way to rage. "What have we done, letting Israel go and lose their services?" he cries. He summons his army, 600 of the best chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over them. Horses neigh, wheels grind, swords gleam in the sun. The desert shakes under the thunder of pursuit. When the Israelites lift their eyes and see the dust rising, terror grips them. The sea lies before them, an endless barrier of water, and behind them approaches the might of Egypt. Panic erupts. "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt?" Fear chokes their voices, drowning the memory of God's power. But Moses stands firm. His voice cuts through the cries. "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The pillar of cloud moves from in front of Israel and stands behind them, placing darkness between them and the Egyptians, but light for God's people. Night falls. Then God commands, "Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water, so that the Israelites can go through on dry ground." Moses obeys. A mighty wind begins to blow, sweeping through the night. The waters stir, tremble, and then part. Walls of water rise on the right and on the left, and between them lies a path of dry ground. Israel enters. Mothers clutch their children tightly. Men steady the frightened, the elderly shuffle forward with awe in their eyes. Every step is faith, every breath a testimony. When Pharaoh sees the path, his pride drives him onward. "Charge," he commands, and his chariots rush into the sea. But the Lord looks down from the pillar of fire and cloud and throws the army into confusion. Wheels jam, horses stumble, soldiers cry out, "Let us flee from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." At daybreak, God speaks again. God speaks. "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses lifts his staff once more. The waters roar and collapse with fury. The sea swallows the chariots, horses, and warriors until not one remains. The pride of Egypt sinks beneath the waves. Israel reaches the far shore. As the sun rises, they turn and see the sea calm once again, the bodies of their enemies washed ashore. Awe and reverence fill their hearts. Scripture declares, "That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore." And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, The people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses his servant. A people once enslaved now stand free. The God who broke Pharaoh's power has also broken the chains of fear. The path through the sea becomes the birth of a nation. If this story has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and share it with someone who needs this message. Your action right now can be the link that carries this word to many hearts. Leave a comment about what moved you most in this video. The roar of the sea still echoes in their ears, but the chains have fallen. The Egyptians lie silent beneath the waves, while Israel stands alive on the far shore. Their eyes widen with awe. They are free, truly free. The weight of centuries lifts from their shoulders, and in that moment, silence gives way to song. Moses lifts his voice, and the people join him in a hymn that rises like a river of praise. I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. It is more than a song. It is testimony. Each line recalls what the people saw. Pharaoh's pride shattered, the waters parted, the path opened, and the enemy destroyed. The song declares God's power, his holiness, his faithfulness. Who among the gods is like you, Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders? This is the birth cry of a nation, a people who now know that their God is not distant. He is the warrior who fights for them, the shepherd who leads them, the king who reigns forever. Then Miriam, the prophetess, sister of Moses and Aaron, takes a tambourine in her hand. The women follow her with tambourines and dancing. Together they sing, "Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea." The desert itself seems to tremble with joy. What began in tears now bursts into celebration. But the wilderness is a teacher. Just 3 days later, the song fades into murmurs. The people find no water, and when they reach Marah, the water is bitter. Thirst cracks their lips, fear tightens their throats, and complaint rises against Moses. "What are we to drink?" Moses cries out to the Lord. God shows him a piece of wood. Moses throws it into the water, and the waters turn sweet. A miracle, not only of provision, but of lesson. There the Lord makes a decree. If you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. The place of bitterness becomes a place of promise. The God who opened the sea also heals what is poisoned. The trial of thirst teaches Israel that freedom does not erase dependence, it deepens it. Every need is an opportunity to discover that the Lord is enough. Soon after, they arrive at Elim, an oasis with 12 springs and 70 palm trees. Shade and water, rest and refreshment. The contrast is clear. After bitterness, blessing. After trial, rest. The wilderness will not destroy them, for God himself is their sustainer. The song of Moses and the waters of Marah mark the rhythm of faith, praise in victory, trust in need. The God who saved them is also the God who heals, guides, and provides. Israel's journey has only begun, but already the Lord is shaping them into his people, a people who will learn to walk not by sight, but by faith. The celebration of victory fades into the relentless rhythm of the desert. Sand stretches endlessly, and the weight of hunger begins to gnaw at the people. The joy of freedom is tested by the emptiness of their stomachs. Soon, murmurs spread like fire through the camp. If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. The words cut deep. The memory of chains grows strangely sweeter than the taste of hunger. The people forget the cruelty of Egypt and remember only the food. Yet heaven listens, and the Lord answers not with wrath, but with provision. I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. At twilight, quail cover the camp, providing meat for the evening. And in the morning, as the dew lifts, the ground reveals something never seen before. Thin flakes, white like frost on the desert floor. The people stare in wonder and ask each other, "What is it?" Moses tells them, "It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat." Each family gathers according to its need. Some take much, some little. Yet when measured, none has too much and none too little. But there is one rule: no one is to keep any of it until morning. Those who try wake to find worms and rot. The lesson is clear: daily trust, daily dependence. Life does not rest on storage, but on the faithfulness of God. On the sixth day, however, they are commanded to gather twice as much, for the seventh day will be a Sabbath, a day of rest. And on that day, the bread remains fresh, untouched by decay. Some, doubting, go out to gather on the Sabbath, but find nothing. The silence of the desert preaches louder than words. God is serious about his covenant of rest. The manna tastes like wafers made with honey, a sweetness in the midst of barrenness. For 40 years it will sustain them until they reach the land of promise. Moses commands that an omer of manna be kept in a jar to be preserved for generations as a testimony, bread that fell from heaven, proof that God's hand fed his people in the wilderness. Each sunrise becomes a reminder. When the people step out of their tents and see the flakes covering the ground, they see more than food. They see mercy renewed every morning, a faithfulness that does not fail. In the hunger of the desert, God teaches them that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from his mouth. The lesson is deeper than nourishment. Egypt taught them to depend on chains. The desert teaches them to depend on God. The manna is more than sustenance. It is a promise of the one who will come, the true bread of life, who would give not only daily provision, but eternal satisfaction. Israel learned slowly, sometimes stumbling, sometimes complaining, but each day the bread falls without fail. The desert is not a place of death, but a place of revelation. Hunger does not have the final word. God does. And his word is life. The desert tests not only bodies but hearts. At Rephidim the camp halts, but there is no water. The sun beats down, lips crack, and the people's voices rise in anger against Moses. Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst? The freedom they dreamed of feels swallowed by thirst. Moses, pressed to breaking, cries out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answers with calm authority, "Walk on ahead of the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel and the staff with which you struck the Nile. I will stand before you on the rock at Horeb, strike the rock, and water will come out for the people to drink." Moses obeys. Before the elders, he raises the staff and strikes, and from the barren stone bursts a stream, cool and abundant, rushing through the camp. Children run to cup their hands, mothers lift skins to fill, men fall to their knees and drink deeply. The desert that promised death becomes a fountain of life. Moses names the place Massah and Meribah, testing and quarreling, because the people asked, "Is the Lord among us or not?" The water itself answered, "Yes, he is." But the wilderness holds more than thirst. Enemies wait in the shadows. The Amalekites come, fierce raiders, striking at the weak and weary. For the first time, Israel must fight as a people. Moses commands Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the hill with the staff of God in my hands." The morning dawns. In the valley below, swords clash, shields splinter, cries rise. Joshua leads the warriors with determination. On the hilltop, Moses raises his hands to heaven, the staff lifted high. As long as his hands are raised, Israel prevails. But when fatigue weighs him down and his arms lower, Amalek pushes forward. The battle swings not by numbers or skill, but by intercession. Aaron and Hur, seeing Moses falter, bring a stone for him to sit on. One stands on each side, holding up his hands, steady until sunset. Together they keep the staff lifted toward heaven, and Israel's strength flows from that unseen power. By evening, Joshua defeats Amalek with the sword. The lesson is etched into memory. The battle belongs not to the strong, but to the Lord. Victory comes not from steel alone, but from trust, prayer, and perseverance. The arms of one man, supported by brothers, secure the triumph of a nation. The God who gave water from the rock also gives victory in the fight. After the battle, the Lord commands, "Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven." Moses builds an altar and names it, "The Lord is my banner." The raised staff, the upheld hands, the flowing water all point to the same truth. The Lord himself is Israel's shield, provision, and deliverer. The wilderness is no longer just a desert. It is a training ground. Israel is learning that their survival does not depend on rivers, armies, or kings. It depends on the God who provides water from rocks and victory against foes. The journey has forged them from slaves into a people who know, step by step, that they are held by the Lord of hosts. 3 months after leaving Egypt, Israel encamps at the foot of a mountain unlike any other, Sinai. The peak rises sharp against the desert sky, wrapped in mystery, waiting to become the stage of divine encounter. Here God will not only lead his people, but bind them to himself in covenant. Moses climbs the mountain, and the Lord speaks. "This is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully, and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." The message is clear. Freedom is not the end, it is the beginning of belonging. Israel, once slaves, is now called to be holy. Moses descends and tells the people. Their voices rise together. "We will do everything the Lord has said." The covenant is sealed by their promise, but before the words of law are carved in stone, God prepares to reveal himself in a way that will mark them forever. Boundaries are set around the mountain. No one may cross. For 3 days, the people consecrate themselves, washing their clothes, preparing their hearts. Anticipation builds like a storm on the horizon. On the morning of the 3rd day, thunder cracks, lightning flashes, and a thick cloud descends. The sound of a trumpet grows louder and louder until the entire camp trembles. Moses leads the people to the foot of the mountain, and there fire consumes its peak. Smoke billows like a furnace, and the whole mountain quakes violently. The trumpet sounds ever stronger. It is not merely a mountain in flames, it is heaven itself touching earth. Then the voice comes, not through a prophet, not through signs, but directly. God himself speaks. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. You shall not covet." 10 words, spoken with authority that shakes the earth. The people hear, and terror grips them. They beg Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die." The holiness of God exposes the weakness of man. Fear teaches them what freedom must mean. Not living as they please, but living under the voice of the one who redeemed them. Moses assures them, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you, to keep you from sinning." The mountain still smokes, the stones still tremble, but now Israel knows their freedom rests on covenant, their journey rests on obedience. God has shown himself not only as deliverer, but as lawgiver. The God who shattered Egypt now writes his will upon the hearts of his people. Sinai is more than a mountain. It is the throne room of the King, and the words spoken here will echo through generations, pointing forward to the day when his law will be written not on stone, but on living hearts. The story of Exodus is more than the tale of a nation leaving slavery. It is the revelation of a God who bends heaven to rescue his people. From the Nile turned to blood, to the Lamb whose blood marked the doors, from the path through the sea to the fire on the mountain, every moment testifies, the Lord is faithful, mighty and holy. Egypt's gods fell silent, its armies drowned, its pride was shattered. But Israel lived, not because of their strength, but because of God's promise. The manna taught them that life depends not on storehouses, but on the daily mercy of heaven. The water from the rock showed that even in barren places, God is the source of life. And Sinai declared that freedom is not the absence of chains, but the call to walk in holiness with the God who saves. This is not only their story, it is ours. How many times have we been bound by chains that no one else can see? Fears, sins, guilt, the weight of a broken world. How often do we wander deserts of doubt, thirsting for hope? And yet, just as God heard the cries of Israel, he hears ours. Just as he broke Pharaoh's grip, he breaks the powers that enslave the heart. Just as the blood on the doorposts brought salvation, the blood of Christ brings eternal life to all who believe. The Exodus points forward to the greater deliverance. Moses lifted his staff to part the waters. Jesus lifted the cross to open the way to heaven. The Lamb slain in Egypt saved a nation for a night. The Lamb of God slain at Calvary saves the world forever. The God who came down in fire at Sinai now writes his law on living hearts through his Spirit. The call remains the same, to trust, to walk, to believe. The God who led Israel with cloud and fire still leads today, guiding, providing, and calling his people into true freedom. So let this story not be ancient memory, but living invitation. The God who opened the sea can open a path in your life. The God who rained down bread can fill your soul. The God who spoke on Sinai still speaks today to you. May this story strengthen your faith. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, on this channel, every day you will find a new word from the Bible told as an epic film.